Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another FPF League Unlocked. Mark here with you, fine feathered individuals, for something that was predicted, an inevitability we knew as soon as Faker was announced as that first Hall of Legends inductee. You knew it had to be Uzi coming in as that second guy to be enshrined forever, and he's actually being retired, so it's even easier to slot him into that spot. But if anyone else was announced second, I think everybody would have been up in arms.
This is the most logical next step for the Hall of Legends type of progression scene that we're going to have for League of Legends. Uzi had to be the next representative to go in, and a very fitting one to be right after the god himself, the unkillable Demon King in Faker, for the Hall of Legends treatment. Welcome on in, Uzi. Here's your big expensive skin package and everything for it. Welcome back to the spotlight.
You know you've made it when you get that $500 skin and you get some of those proceeds going there. Gonna be Kaisa looking like for Uzi over Vayne. I know Kaisa kind of came out, I think 2018 she came out when he was, most iconic, made a lot of his iconic plays on that Kaisa, so I get it. Even though she's already got 55 skins, they'll make a lot more money off the Kaisa. But we're talking about Uzi and his legacy. They did a great little video of former current pro players kind of talking about his evolution. And by the way, if you watch this full video reveal, Uzi's doing marathons now. His health has taken a complete 180 from injuries and, a diabetes diagnosis being one of the main reasons he retired. He looks fantastic.
And this is an important note, because I think this is for everybody, is celebrating how great it has been, his time away from the scene, and how his health has changed around for the better in a lot of these aspects. Yes, and that is certainly not without a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication coming through to do these type of things, a lot of the not so pretty, not so easy type of choices going through, and Uzi has made himself a healthier, better man for it. Very happy to see him in that type of form and shape. And when you're talking about, yes, the Kaisa skin coming on in, a lot of people would be thinking, of course, well, what are the other options that would have been considered or up in that type of territory? Kaisa, I think, is the one that's going to sell quite a bit. I think that is certainly a major factor playing into it. Yes, and I'm sure that's not too far away from Mr. Uzi's mind or his family's mind either in this type of choice. Vayne would have been obviously a very fitting one, a very iconic one, given his love for the champion. Heck, I think his wife even almost looks a lot like Vayne, guys. So he really does like this character. I think the other one, of course, is Ezreal, is one that would have been seen as a very fitting pick, given his skill, his proficiency on the character throughout his time in the professional scene. But make no mistake, there still have been multiple, and you're right, tons since the introduction of Kaisa, really around that peak moment in time, Tyrell. For Uzi, he really made some eye-popping plays on this type of champion.
And obviously, the comparisons will be there to Faker because they were historic rivalries for so many years. But one of the biggest comparisons that I love to see, and is a testament to the greatness, is when you hear peers talk about them, right? Everyone talks about Faker. They're saying, yes, he's the GOAT, no question. But when you hear best AD carries of all time in their respective regions, at the very least, in this big reveal video, you had Doublelift, Reckless, and Deft all just sitting there glazing Uzi, saying during his peak times it felt like he had extra clicks. Both Mata and Ming, who played alongside Uzi, were talking about how insane mechanically that this guy was. And when peers and greats in their own right are talking about a player like this, that's why Uzi is here as the number 2 guy getting enshrined.
It hits different. It's different when, you and I, fans, even analysts and extreme experts, and you go all the way to the top of the level talking about this player and all the great things. It's different when it's coming from his peers, from those fellow former professional players, guys that you are standing shoulder to shoulder with. You are in the trenches down in Summoner's Rift, battling it out, going through all the hardships, the burnout, all these type of things, to be able to recognize the greatness, the skill, the exceptional talent that Uzi was. I think you saw that throughout the course of this announcement video and everything else as you laid out with so many professionals from multiple different regions, guys that played against him, guys that played with him, coming through with their own story, their own unique trait that they are saying was the difference maker, why this guy is special, why he deserves to be thrown into the Hall of Legends type of category.
And I think his story trajectory is a great one to follow for aspiring pros and even people in other industries and fields, because you see, you know, the talent was there obviously from the get-go. His mechanics were insane, but the first couple of years, teams recognized it, completely played around him. But let's face it, he was a little toxic, and he'll be the first one to admit that he basically only cared about his individual performance. They were going to funnel him all the resources as long as he's playing well. Things are good, but he gets angry when he loses, but can't communicate with teammates. And then we see the growth, you know, there's some growing pains. He goes to OMG, things don't go well. He loses to SKT time and time again in those earlier years. And then we see him step into that, you know, veteran leadership kind of role where he's propping his other teammates up. And that's when we see that 2018 run for RNG where they almost complete the Golden Road. We forget about the G2 series. Never happened.
Yeah, get that out of here. No smug mid laner perks to ruin this one for Uzi on the day. It's a special story, his journey, because I think one of the things that is so great about League of Legends, about esports, is it's so relatable for the average fan to think of a situation, an experience that you've been in with your games, your friend group, whatever, and you can then obviously take it to the extremes to throw it into the professional avenue and whatever not. Uzi's journey, his maturity, his growth throughout these times within gaming, I think a lot of people can reflect and look back on those similar type of feelings, those type of thoughts. Obviously not to the extremes where you're playing at the stages and the environments and the stakes that someone like Uzi was, but I think his growth, that just journey and that maturation of him as that individual, and we've seen that only continue since he has stepped away from the game, is part of the reason so many people love this guy the way that they do and cheer for him the way that they did, despite being the crownless king, the one without that world championship title. And I think this is I'm not bringing it up to be this little asterisk and smudge on the record for Uzi, but I think it enters the conversation now for him joining the Hall of Legends, that it is no longer simply, hey, can you stack up the Faker and the amount of world championships that he's got? How many do you have in your pocket type of thing? We can now broaden it and examine your impact and value to the game outside of strictly world championships.
And you can, you know, guys like Ruler and Deft are going to have the longevity factor, maybe had longer careers than him. But to me, it's still, when you look at peak performance impact that one individual had, he's still going to have that GOAT status for AD carries, regardless if guys have longer careers, get more world championships, because the individual talent and pressure that he brought has still, to this day, been unmatched by other AD carries. Unfortunately, we had a dark horse run, a miracle run, come to an end in the LPL, and that was World Elite matching up against IG, fresh off of taking out Top Esports, taking down JDG, but they used up all of their magical juice because it was a swift 3-0 from Invictus Gaming. And JJ, man, what a series this dude had. He had some, well, we had a terrible smite from Monkey in game 1, and then how about a Trundle in game 2 for JJ, getting the first 7 kills for IG, a 7-0-0 troll.
Oh, man, and there's a lot of champions you don't want to be facing them with that type of scoreline. Trundle is one of the most frustrating if he is at that type of point in time, because nothing you are going to do on the Rift is going to feel satisfying or going to be ending up in the way that you want it to play out with him putting up that ice pillar and everything else. This series, yes, it was all about IG. It was the dominant 3-0 form from them. No more magic for WE on the day in this one. You mentioned JJ really performing. I think that was a fantastic series from him, being that type of difference maker. The other members of the squad, Rookie, Gala, the Shy, all still packing the punch that you want them to in a series like this. It's difficult because, yes, the fun, the underdog, dark horse aspect of WE does die here, does end at this point of the LPL playoffs. But I'm pretty sure a lot of us are going to be jumping on that bandwagon, shifting gears pretty quickly into the excitement about this rejuvenated, reinvigorated, consorted type of roster for IG, getting to a point where it is serious games, and there's a chance we might be getting them at MSI.
Yeah, listen, it was an amazing story for World Elite. They absolutely leveled up, but everybody was screaming for this IG BLG rematch, and now it's the final spot at MSI that's on the line. And remember, these guys matched up earlier in the playoffs. It was a pretty convincing 3-0 going to the way of BLG, but I will say, since then, Rookie had a single kill across all 3 of those games, but has completely turned a page in their playoff series since then. And my man, he only died, I think, 3 times this series today against World Elite, and he has turned back the clock. This now Rookie versus Knight rematch feels like we're going back to 2020 when Knight was still the new kid on the block with the level Rookie's at.
It's crazy that Rookie can still reinsert himself right back into the very forefront of that battle of the top of the mid laners in the LPL. We've had, various times, stretches where you're wondering, is he individually under the fraud watch within the LPL for the performances and superstar status label that he does carry? He has certainly proven that it is legitimate throughout these playoffs right now in this run for IG. And again, this retooled back up lineup for IG, he's really taken that forefront, that step forward as that leader once again for this team. On and off the Rift, he is that guy that you associate with Invictus Gaming. Very thrilled that we get this type of matchup, this type of head-to-head against BLG to be the one deciding that other team heading towards MSI for the LPL. This one's going to be a barn burner. This one's going to be a banger. I can't wait for all the games in this one.
There's no way it's a 3-0 again, right? Because IG has looked much better over the last couple of series. BLG has been good in their own right, might be a little angry after losing to Anyone's Legend, but a series that has been and the Shy going head-to-head, even if the Shy had a kind of hilarious TP or 2 in this World Elite series, there's no way we don't get at least a couple crazy top lane picks, right?
He's just doing that for the viewers at home, my man. He knows his biggest fanboy, Cadrill. He knows Las Vitona's coach was watching it. He had to give him a little bit of extra fun clips to go and roll through that one.
And it definitely worked out. But I think obviously BLG are still going to be big favorites in this matchup. But either one who gets through, I feel like they might carry the momentum, be able to take down Anyone's Legend. But AL, should they still be the favorites against either squad? I guess it depends how the series plays out, of course, but
I think it plays into the preparation and how much you believe in the strength of Anyone's Legend on how they're going to be able to adapt with whoever comes through that side of the bracket, whether it is Invictus Gaming or if it's going to be BLG again against them in that rematch. That's going to be the test for me, really, about what Anyone's Legend is able to prepare for themselves, because you're right. I think either one, Invictus Gaming, BLG, whoever comes ahead out of that matchup is going to be stronger, is going to be better because of it. It's not going to be, that was the peak. It's going to be, okay, here's a couple other little things that we can tweak or we learned, we got better at here. Let's bring that into this matchup in the finals. I think that's going to be the case. So yes, Anyone's Legend does need to be prepared for that step up, that extra energy coming through from their opponent on the finals, regardless of who it will be.
Either way, any of these, either BLG or IG are going to be, oh my God, absolute picturesque cinema for any MSI squad to match up against. It's only 3 teams left in the LCK, but we got a 4-sum heading through in the LCK for even busier LCK finals that we're going to be getting. Obviously kicks off with, I believe Genji and Hanwha are the first one before we have the Telecom War throwdown. And this is a rare time in the LCK playoffs where it feels like T1 are underdogs. I hesitate to even say that against, at least in the KT matchup. They very much are against Hanwha Genji, but KT has been so hot lately. T1 might be the underdog of underdogs of the 4 remaining teams, and that is when T1 is scary.
That might be the most KT thing of all time, to peak in your power level so much that T1 becomes the underdog. And that is, of course, as we all know, the most dangerous territory to throw T1 into. That is where they find all the marbles. They get the correct read on the meta. They push you and punish you in ways you never expected. This is the LCK. You're right. It's going to be Gen G and Hanwha Life to get us that kickstart off. But I think, and you know, not to diminish that type of series, that type of one where it does have that value of sending someone straight on through, and the other one's going to go down into that losers bracket final spot. It still is the all importance to me on this KTT1-1. This is where it's going to be really the make or break of what it shapes up the rest of this weekend for the finals that we're going to have. If it is that, and it can go either way. It can be T1 getting that win in the telecom wars, you know, and everything else, or it can be that continuation of the power that we have seen from KT in these playoffs, and you can then believe in that heading into the matchups against Hanwha Life or Gen G, whoever it ends up being after that head-to-head.
And truthfully, it does feel like, as we've kind of touched on, if Gen G and Hanwha are good on the day, you know, even close to 80% of what we've seen throughout the majority of the split, nobody's got a chance against them. So when you do throw them head to head, you remember the last series was Gen G coming away with it. Of course, they went 18-0, and both of these teams, to the surprise of absolutely no one, are pretty much 1-2 in every major statistical category from the regular season. And that last series, the two games that they did win, the one that they lost, Keen was on Ornn. The two games they win, he's on Aurora and Italy. Just saying, is Keen maybe the counter to Zeus in that top? I don't know.
I'm willing to hear that argument out. I think that could be one of the great ones, and would be maybe the 200 IQ after it all plays out, the behind the scenes, the Zeus, Doran, Keen drama that played out in the off season to maybe working around as Gen G going all along. We got the Zeus killer. We got the counter effect right here. It doesn't matter if he goes over to Hanwha Life for however much money or stays at T1. We secured ourselves our guy on our top side, and I think that is the scary under the radar type of angle for this Gen G team, because again, of course, so much of that headline, so much of that spotlight is talking about Chovy in the mid lane, Ruler and his form in that bottom lane, and how he has really turned online in a couple of these later in the split type of matches, as well as Canyon. You're talking a lot about these other guys. You don't end up focusing so much on Keen, but you're right. When you look at those games, those difference maker ones on those champions, it is the counter effect coming on through, and he is someone that you would want to shut down.
Either way, we're going to have some fantastic teams going to MSI at the LCK. But do you have anyone not named Hanwha or Gen G representing at MSI?
Yeah, I'm going with Hanwha or Gen G. I'd love my bleeding T1 heart right here to say, yes, it's going to be my guys coming on through. And I'm not ruling any of it out, of course. But I do fully expect that the power of Gen G and Hanwha Life is too much. No matter which one gets knocked down, they'll be able to regroup in that next matchup and throw themselves back in as the two teams for the LCK.
Listen, T1 hasn't been a barn burner at MSI in a while. They're saving that magic for the World Championship to go through a run and qualify. It just really feels like it's Hanwha Life and Gen G's world right now in the LCK, and I'd almost be disappointed to not see both of them internationally again, especially Hanwha looking to defend that title that they got from First Stand. Also had the LTA finals, which are, again, a similar pattern. You have an even bigger underdog and two large favorites that are somewhat evenly matched. Is there any kind of angle where this run from Shopify takes them all the way to finals?
Absolutely is an avenue for this Shopify Rebellion squad. And I don't know whether that says more about Shopify Rebellion and their kind of mishmashed group of pieces that have had various levels of success within the LCS LTA in the past, or is that more so a statement about how you feel about FlyQuest and Cloud9, about what is that ultimate high level within the region that needs to then be surpassed to take over these type of moments, these type of situations and series? That's going to be your question. And I think it's more so about the quality on Shopify Rebellion is the optimist glass half full angle that I'm going to take in this one for the LTA, is like players like Fudge, Contracts, Palafox are more than capable and can contribute more than they have been throughout their tenure on Shopify Rebellion, and getting back to those golden moments for them within their LTA, LCS careers. If you can hit those peaks all together, this is a Shopify team that should be standing at the finals and competing for it, and that type of team. If they revert back to a lot of the Shopify problems and issues that we saw throughout let's just face it, 3/5, 4/5 of the split, then they've got no business going up against either of Cloud9 or a FlyQuest in the finals.
Yeah, basically the entire year, save for the last 2 weeks. You could talk about Shopify like that. But this is an opportunity, again, for Cloud9 to get over a hurdle, I think, and that is showing that Sven can be the guy to take over a game. I think there were opportunities against FlyQuest, especially that Zeri game, and it wasn't there. He gets caught out, is mispositioned in some of the fights when he's the guy with all the money and can't do anything. We've seen the solo lanes be the stars of Cloud9, but in a matchup against B-Boy, who dumpstered FBI and kind of got the advantage over Yon, this is an opportunity for the bot lane of Cloud9 to say, no, we can play through us to win games as well.
And that bottom lane for Shopify Rebellion, I think, given the struggles of everything else that's going on, is relatively criminally underrated within the region and what they are capable of in their best of matchups, right? In these type of ways. So I think, yes, having that challenge to Sven and saying, look at that past series, especially that Zeri game, as you point out, these were territories where better players, more iconic players take over, take control of it. And I think that Sven thinks of himself and holds himself to that type of standard. So I think that he should be capable of it, and that's going to be that challenge in this one as well. And again, how is this still, mostly, building off of Thanatos and Loki combined with the veteran core we've talked about? How are they able to pick the pieces back up again? We saw they picked it up relatively pretty good heading back into that rematch against FlyQuest. Now, how can you do it to make sure that you can get that one last chance at them before this split ends?
And truthfully, somewhat similar to the LCK, to me at least. It feels like even though FlyQuest have gotten these head-to-heads against Cloud9, they're not satisfied with them. These guys are hungry and even more locked in because it's only that winning team that's going to MSI. So I think regardless of who wins semis, it's still going to be FlyQuest coming away and representing the LTA North, which probably, if you're a fan of the region, is the best possible outcome to match up internationally. But that is it today for League Unlocked. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolutely gorgeous individuals. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we will catch you on that flippity